Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Queen. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day for Monday, January 13th, 2025. Today's episode of Nothing Personal is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Another season bites the dust. Another season bites the dust. And another one gone. Pittsburgh, another one gone. Tomlin, another one bites the dust. The Pittsburgh Steelers eliminated. It is true they lost to a team that is so far better than they are. A quarterback in Lamar Jackson who is so far superior to any other quarterback save one in the entire National Football League. Hard not to walk away from this last 5 games. So many thoughts on the 5 games. We have one more wild card game left tonight with the Rams-Vikings. I watched all 5 games, and I couldn't help but look at Mike Tomlin and think to myself how sad it is when a person doesn't understand that it's over. And for Mike Tomlin, it's over. His ability to win games as a coach in the playoffs doesn't exist. It's time to look at the facts of the case. And the facts of the case are that season after season, regular season, everything's positive. He's now lost 6 straight playoff games. His last Super Bowl was 2008. He doesn't deserve the Popovich treatment, the Steve Kerr treatment. The question needs to be asked if you're running that football team, and they've asked it right before his last extension, which he signed in 24. What is it about Mike Tomlin? Is it the continuity that the Steelers so badly crave, having had so few coaches in the past 50 years? Is it the belief that they want to be the anti-Patriots or Jaguars? Well, the current Patriots and the always Jaguars. Do they look at that game yesterday and do they say to themselves, or Saturday was the game, and do they say that the Steelers under Mike Tomlin, as currently constituted, with a $1 million Russell Wilson, who shows a flash of something in one of the 4 quarters, otherwise is overmatched, not even a shell of who he used to be, and is completely washed up, and is a brilliant play by Pittsburgh, only in that they didn't have to pay him. But the minute you have to pay him, he is an absolute no thank you. Do you look at your team and say to yourself that we are not good enough, and therefore we have to change how we do it? I want to really focus on that concept as you watch season by season bite the dust. I'm talking about teams like the Dolphins. I'm talking about teams like the Steelers. I'm talking about teams like the Knicks during the Bulls and Jordan dynasty. What do you do when you do not see a path to jewelry? And I feel that I am well positioned to discuss this because so many years running the Marlins did I think to myself, I'd like another ring. I don't know what the path is. We don't have the payroll. We don't have the talent. Baseball, though, the season's the great equalizer. If you can just sneak into the playoffs, you can get hot at the right time, and you never know. There was always the kernel of hope that you can keep in baseball. And the irony is that we go through baseball managers, not just our team, but people go through baseball managers way faster for the most part, than they go through football coaches or even NBA coaches. I view the NFL as a league unto itself. You can't watch your team play week in and week out and believe that on any given Sunday, you have an opportunity to win a particular football game. It is a defense mechanism that we have as presidents of teams that we say to ourselves, hey, we're going to ignore the noise. We believe in this clubhouse. We walk down into that locker room and we look at the guys and we have a meeting. We talk to the coach every day and we convince ourselves by talking in circles and having these meetings that we all have about our personnel and about our plans, our game planning. And we actually convince ourselves, we delude ourselves that we are competitive, that we can have a great pitching performance by this particular player on this particular night, and it can carry us to victory. That is the belief that you have to have when you head into a game, into a week, into a month, into a season. Now that I've stepped back outside of operations, I look inside and I question, what is it about the brain that gives you that false sense, that gives you that sort of delusion? And why is it that when you're in it, you can't see it the way people can when they're out of it? And when they're out of it and they say stuff, you ignore it because what you say is, you're not inside. You're not an insider. You don't understand our team. Is that what the Rooneys say about Mike Tomlin? You don't get it. You don't understand because you're not there. The cameras aren't on, or you're just a fan. You're just a critic. You're just in the media. You're just a player. You don't realize what he adds, the dimension that he adds to our team. I wonder if they say that, if the owner says that about George Pickens. George, you just don't get it. You're missing the whole package here. The Mike Tomlin package. George Pickens was asked about the Steelers' horrific offense and said that he's seen signs of growth. When asked whether he feels optimistic going forward about the offense, he simply said, nah. That is quite an emotional indictment, not quite a Tyreek Hill, but it's not ideal. And that comes from a game where in 60 minutes you say to yourselves, we do not have a chance. For whatever reason, Mike Tomlin continues to get more chances. Whether they've won 3 playoff games in the past 14 years or not, none of it really matters. Tomlin is the longest tenured coach in the NFL. Guess what? Mike Tomlin's going to keep coaching the Steelers. For those of you thinking there's going to be a coaching change because all of a sudden they lost to the Ravens and you feel as though that finally the owner's going to look and say Gnug, NGTH, not going to happen. Coca, you can make it official. Let's do an official wait to see when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, we'll revisit it. If it doesn't, we'll revisit it. Stay tuned for the end of the show. We've got quite a few wait to sees to remind you of that'll make you smile. Tomlin will coach the Steelers next season. That's my wait to see. I'm as sure that Tomlin's going to coach the Steelers as I am that Mike Vrabel is going to coach the Pats. That's how confident I am. What big news over the weekend. Reason for optimism in New England. Take off those paper bags. Forget Steve Grogan. We're going to channel Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. We're back, baby. You remember the name Mike Vrabel, former coach. Remember what he did with the Titans? Remember the power he wanted, and then he lost the power struggle with the GM, and now the GM got fired too, side note. So Vrabel stops coaching, and now he becomes the #1 coaching candidate. Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft sit with him, and they say, we love you, man. I mean, you're our Hall of Famer. You got rings with us. You're that type of player. And the way you've coached, the experience, the force that you bring, the knowledge of the Patriots. We're going to give you the keys to the castle. Mike Vrabel is going to come in and he's going to realize really, really quickly that without a top quarterback, you're not going to win in this league. And really, you need that top quarterback to perform prior to getting paid in order to have a complete team. It is true that we watched a bunch of quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, we watched Josh Allen. They are outliers. They're getting paid and their teams are really good. Other big-time quarterbacks, Jordan Love, the way he's getting paid, Tua, the way he's getting paid, you just don't have enough. They're not good enough. I want to talk about what happened with Vrabel because it's getting a ton of attention. Speaking of the Steelers and Rooney and the Rooney Rule, I want to focus on the Rooney Rule and focus how you get around the Rooney Rule. We touched on it last week when we told you about the interviews that the Patriots did with two black potential coaching candidates, and then they took out an ad. I would, for the record, like to say that I'm sick and tired of team announcements of who they've interviewed. I'm not interested in the fact that you interviewed Ron Rivera. Not interested in the fact that you interviewed Byron Leftwich. I'm interested in who you hire. You don't need to justify your process to me. You don't need to justify it to anybody other than leaking word out that you're not violating the Rooney Rule. Do you think that it's sufficient to give the Brian Flores type allocated interview to a minority candidate? The sham interview? We've been talking about it because sports do it. Baseball, the Selig rule. Teams do the sham minority interviews all the time. Coke, I had more than 10 and under 100 nothing personal people contact me about one of the takes we had last week. And it wasn't a take. It was, I don't think mine are takes. Mine are just my thoughts that I'm communicating to you. And people were explaining to me why it matters that there were two black head coaches in the CFP semifinals and now a black coach, Freeman, going to the CFP finals, saying that I missed it because it's noteworthy because black coaches have not had opportunities. And when they get opportunities and then take advantage of them and are successful, we have to note that. And my point from the beginning was it's not about noting that. It's about normalizing that. And I responded to those who reached out, to some of you who reached out. I couldn't get to everybody. And now when you look at the hiring of Mike Vrabel, do you view it as a step backwards? Do you view it as a sidestep, a step forward? How do you view the fact that Robert Kraft puts his thumb on the nose of the Rooney Rule, does it as a check the box, as though he's getting a lead certification, and then thinks that we're going to be stupid enough to think that there were any other candidates? I happen to be a big believer. When you own your team, when you own your business, you have the right to hire whoever you want. There are certain laws that you cannot break. You must follow them. I'm in. You have to follow the laws of hiring practices, certain questions you can't ask in the process, age, sexual proclivities, many others, children. But I don't want to be told who I think is going to do the best job for my company. You are silly if you don't hire people who look and talk and act and can identify with your customers, or people who are able and qualified to deal with your product. There is a particular reason why you go for former players to be managers or coaches. There's a particular reason why you have a diverse staff, because you have a diverse clubhouse. There's a particular reason you have a diverse sales staff, because you're selling to diverse groups of people. As a business owner, in order to maximize value and profits, you have to figure out who is spending money on your product and what is the product that you're actually selling. If Robert Kraft believes that Mike Vrabel is the coach for his team, I don't think it's the job of Roger Goodell or any other of the diversity hawks, or anybody else to get in the way of that. The alternative is way worse, because when you have a token or sham interview, it's insulting and denigrating to everybody in the process. There is no doubt in my mind that the way Robert Kraft did this process is he had Mike Vrabel hired before he had Mayo fired. He basically said to Vrabel, I got to go through a process. We got to do a couple interviews, but we've got a deal. Why do I believe Kraft did it? Because we all do it that way. Oh, we're going to sit down with this. I've never met this coach. Let me sit down and get to know him. Think Kraft didn't know Vrabel? I'm still getting over the Packers-Eagles game. The Packers just had a very bad, ill-timed, poor game. Fumbling the opening kickoff, which I still believe they recovered, and Coca agrees with me. The lack of discipline. 2 minutes on this, Coca. It's not in the show. Just 2 minutes on it. I am a business person, not an athlete. I can run a bit, but I can shoot baskets. I can hit a baseball. I'm okay at everything. I'm good at nothing. I'm very competitive. Very. Can you talk to me about the emotions of being competitive? 18 years talking to players, never got convinced, never understood, never agreed. Did you see the Packers defensive lineman who got the unsportsmanlike conduct? The way he acted when he tackled Barkley and then stepped over him, got 15 yards, gave him a first down when it would have been third down. It was still a one-possession game. Matt LaFleur lost his mind, the coach of the Packers. How many times have we seen taunting, unsportsmanlike? Forget the head first, ridiculous tackling that is being taught, the head hunting that is being taught in practices in the NFL, the violence that is so disgraceful and so shameful, yet everybody takes a knee and prays for their teammates and brethren. And when the game starts, it's like they're gladiators going to the death. You want to do football that way, you do football that way. But explain to me the penalties. Explain to me the emotion where you can't control yourself. I was told by some baseball people something, and I thought of this, Coca. You don't get it. You don't get what fuels the players to be great, David. The emotion of the moment is what they need to perform at the highest level. It's the reason why players took greenies. It's the reason why players have smelling salts and do all sorts of things to rise to the moment required to build the adrenaline level to a place needed to perform. At 7:59 a.m. Eastern, I do something in my head 1 minute before we start our live show. I do something in my head to get me ready to do the show. Having done the preparation, which are the practices, having put in the game plan, which is the rundown, having figured out the strategy of the show, knowing that stuff's going to happen where I'm going to go off the chart, I'm going to go off course, and just counting on my preparation and my history to get me through. But there's something I do at 7:59 to get the energy level up. It doesn't involve a needle. It doesn't involve a pill. It is an exercise I do in my brain that starts with 1 minute to go. The exercise is based on one of the most important principles of having your own show and having a microphone in this day and age and a platform in this day and age. It is the calming of the mouth and the focus of the brain. It is knowing that for 50 minutes, I'm going to have my brain ahead of my mouth, And while there will be mistakes that I say and things that I do, funny little moments, the brain will always be ahead of the mouth to protect nothing personal, to protect Coca, to protect me, and to give you the best quality show I can give. For an athlete, when they are performing the physical game, I am willing to understand the mentality that is required to be that violent, to be that focused. But are you willing to admit that if that focus, that mental preparation, that moment costs your team or yourself? It happened with John Starks. I will never forget this, Coca. Now we're going way back. The John Starks headbutt on Reggie Miller. Coca, if we had a bigger video team, we'd call for it right now. We'd say, listen, go to the video of John Starks headbutting. Cost us a game, a series. There's no forgiving what the Packers did. I'm just not over it, and I will not get over it. It's up to all of us to control ourselves. That shouldn't be an excuse, a crime of passion. Nope, not good enough for me. I want to talk about two more things that happened this weekend that interested me. One is the absolute surgical precision of Josh Allen. He's a championship quarterback who just doesn't have a ring yet. The Broncos come out, they score first very quickly. All of the craziness about the Broncos getting the last playoff spot in the AFC. Would it be the Bengals? Would it be the Dolphins? Would it be the Broncos? The Chiefs laid down, so the Broncos made it in. 1 week later, the Broncos are up 7-0 after a first series. Bo Nix, the rookie, looks great. Panic setting in for Bills fans everywhere, except Josh Allen. Josh Allen could have been down 21-0 to the Broncos, and you got the feeling that there was no way that he was going to lose that game. If you haven't had a chance to watch him, you should watch him. And the last thing on the weekend, Coca, that I want to talk about is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is the coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. I was rooting for the Chargers. They were our pick of the day. I was rooting for them as representatives of Los Angeles, given everything that's going on and still going on. And I'm watching the game, and I'm watching Justin Herbert. I'm watching CJ Stroud. And I did not watch a lot of Chargers this season, but I was watching Herbert, infatuated with his athleticism, with his arm strength. Looks like a quarterback, acts like a quarterback. Had very few incomplete passes if you count the passes he completed to the Texans, which were plentiful and early and often. So Jim Harbaugh in his first year brings the Chargers to the playoffs, brings them on the road favorite in the wild card, and loses the game. And then after the game, he stood up and said, I let the team down. You can't turn the ball over like that and expect to win. I just have to be better. I like coaches taking responsibility. I've taken responsibility for a lot of things in my life that I haven't done. But you have to do it with a level of credibility. I'm not sure I understand what Harbaugh's talking about. And I would love to be the one to tell you, as a Wisconsin Badger, anti-Wolverine, that Jim Harbaugh was the one responsible. I would love that. Go back to Michigan, you stink. But how exactly is that the coach's issue? Did he put the wrong plays in? Were the wide receivers running routes that led to interceptions? Was Justin Herbert acting in a way that, because of the game plan this week, as opposed to the previous 18 weeks, where he had one of the best seasons TD to interception ratios, because he had more interceptions yesterday than he had this weekend than he had the entire season? And that's a coach's issue? Here's when it is a coach letting the team down. When the coach has not prepared his defense for what the other team's offense is going to do. He hasn't prepared his offense for what the other team's defense is going to do, for the different positioning, the different sets that are happening. Maybe that's what Harbaugh was thinking. All the interceptions were because I didn't prepare our offense enough for what the Texas defense was going to do. Give me a break. Seriously. Sometimes it's very hard for me to swallow this fact. Sometimes you just are not the better team. Sometimes when you are the better team, you just don't play well enough to win that particular day. Sometimes when you're the better team, the worst team plays better that particular game, series. We always need to explain something. We always need to place blame to something. Distance since running a team has given me the perspective that sometimes things just are. Yesterday, Saturday's game, Chargers-Texans, it just was not Herbert's day. It happens. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to review season 2 of Shrinking. I've got some baseball stuff I want to talk about, something that happened. And we will, don't worry, we're going to get to those wait to sees, I promise. You are going to smile when you hear some of the wait to sees that we got right and that we got wrong. We'll do it all after the break. Good morning. It's David Samson. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. If you're watching this on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, you may notice, in addition to the regular purple blazer I'm wearing, there's an extra amount of makeup on my face covering up the remnants of the procedure I had to take care of some skin cancers, precancerous cells. My face is peeling off currently. And while I'm talking, I'm so distracted because I can barely move my mouth. And I was told this was going to happen. I knew Monday's show was going to be problematic. I apologize. I am trying to talk and articulate as much as possible, but every time my mouth opens, there's a cracking that's going on. But use sunscreen, for crying out loud, Meatloaf. I love Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. I love Bill Lawrence. I love Ted McGinley. I love Shrinking. I love it in a way that I'm prepared to tell you about. I love it in a way that if you don't like Shrinking, then I can't understand that you're not willing to look at not just brilliance in writing and brilliance in acting. Harrison Ford deserves every bit of recognition he's getting for the role he plays. But if you're just uncomfortable with therapy and you're uncomfortable with problems and you'd rather ignore them, I don't know that you'll like Shrinking. But if you're willing to embrace the possibility that the way you're doing things is wrong and embrace the possibility that there are people out there who can help you do it better and right, who don't have the emotional fork in the heart of your family or friends or relationship, if you're willing to acknowledge that, then Shrinking's for you. Quick message to Bill Lawrence. I don't know how you continue to write and showrun and be in charge of all of these shows, each one better than the last, each episode better than the last. Brett Goldstein from Ted Lasso, the actor who played Roy Kent, he's more than an actor. He is a writer and a hell of a writer. He acts on Shrinking. He is a creator and writer on Shrinking, in addition to Ted Lasso. The quality of each episode in season 2 for an encore, I didn't think you could make it better than season 1. Season 2 of Shrinking is better than season 1. I couldn't be more jealous if you have not started that series yet, because it means you get to watch it. Enjoy Shrinking. I love the fact that candy has to do with shrinking. Watch season 2 and season 1, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about fans. I've been talking about athletes and how they prepare, self-inflicted errors that teams have. mental errors versus physical. Do you remember in the World Series? Do you remember who played in the World Series? That it was Dodgers Yankees. We're about to have a baseball season that starts again very soon. In under 2 months, we will have a regular season game, or just about 2 months. Do you remember when Mookie Betts, playing right field, went to catch a foul ball in Yankee Stadium, and he went in to catch it, and his glove, and he was in the first row, and 2 Yankee fans were grabbing at his glove and grabbing at his hand and grabbing at him? And we did a segment saying that not only were they going to get ejected, but they were done. They were not going to be allowed to attend another game ever. The reason I'm doing the victory lap here is it was announced this weekend that the fans who interfered with Mookie Betts have been banned not just from Yankee Stadium, they've been banned from all stadiums for life. They've been banned from all MLB events, anything MLB related. No matter where the games are played, if it's not a game but an event, if it's something else they're doing, these fans are done. And you may say to me, how do you enforce that? We get pictures every year. With facial recognition, it's getting way easier, but not all stadiums have it. But we would get pictures every year sent to us. We did it like the post office. This may be a reference that 42.6% of you are going to laugh at, and 58.4% of you are going to say, what's he talking about? It used to be that you walked into the post office and you have pictures of all the wanted men, the fugitives, the criminals. They'd be posted in the post office. That's not a coincidence. Every team prior to every season gets a Facebook of those people not allowed in ballparks. Then there are individual fans not allowed in particular ballparks. You circulate those photos to the police who police inside the venue, the police who police outside the venue, but more importantly, you have them at every entrance to your ballpark. So if you go to an entrance to your stadium or ballpark and you go behind a security desk, there will be photos of people not allowed in. It is very possible for fans who are banned to get past security. We then have people inside the bowl who have with them photo size, like wallet size, folded up pieces of paper with the photos of the people banned from the stadium. But still, it's possible that they're not doing their job, or they're not paying attention, or you can slide in under the radar. Enforcing the lifetime ban is way more difficult than you believe. You count on and hope that the fans will not go to another game, that they will take their ban seriously and not want to get caught. But it's very much the honor system. Until 5 years from now, when what the Knicks do at the Garden is done as a matter of course everywhere you go. I call it the MRS, the Minority Report situation. The Minority Report situation is when your eyeballs are your ID. You don't need to show your license and registration. You don't need to show your ID when you come into a bar. You don't need to carry anything with you that's not in your phone. Everything gets done with your eyeballs. The MRS, the Minority Report situation, when you go into a store, hey, oh, it's you, David. Here's the size 30s. Go buy yourself a pair of jeans. The facial recognition software will make it virtually impossible, if not impossible, for fans who have been banned to gain access to a facility, because they would be scanned and there'd be a buzzer that would go off. And for all the people who are scared of this, for the invasion of privacy, Is that not a trade that you're willing to make? Let me ask it in another way. If I could promise you safety in a particular situation, safety from criminal activity, from terrorism, and it was all done because an airline did profiling, just profiling, not even facial recognition. And that profiling was done in a way that kept you safe. Is your view no? I will not accept profiling. It is a terrible word, racial profiling. There are airlines that do profiling every day that keep you safe just by profiling during security. But we can do better. We have the technology to do the facial recognition, to do the scans. The people afraid of it, in my opinion, are the people who are scared of it because they've got something to hide. Many people have tried to convince me that their fear of invasion of privacy, the reason why they cover the camera on their laptop, the reason why they will not go through the machine in the airport that scans them and they want a hand scan, whether it's that you're going to get cancer, whether it's that you don't want your data to be anywhere, so you don't do pre-check, you don't do global entry. You want to hold out and be that, be my guest, but you're going to be inconvenienced. The only people who should be scared are the people who don't want to be found out. Do you know that when people are profiling you or when people are reading your eyes or getting information about you, they're not doing it because you're looking at porn movies. They're not doing it because you enjoy at all. You do not enjoy. What did you say, Coca? What did you say? You're upset because my take is live and let live, and now I'm telling you that I want profiling and visual recognition. Do you not see the difference between live and let live as it relates to your views in politics, your views anywhere of any opinion of the world, and the fact that you are responsible from a global standpoint for everybody's safety? I'm sorry. Is there confusion about what we're talking about? We're talking about situations where fear can win the day, where inconvenience wins the day when I have to pull the candy out of my bag. I'm not talking about that you don't have the right to have whatever opinion you have about whatever subject you have. That's what live and let live is. I'm talking about that I want the technology that Jim Dolan has. I want that to be able to be used anywhere I am. I want to be able to go into a game, an airport. I want to be able to go on Bourbon Street. I want to be able to be safe. This has nothing to do with living in a communist state where the government has all control. This has everything to do with my desire to live my life not worried about looking over my shoulder. If there are other uses that are used inappropriately, that's what we've got the laws and the protections for. Jim Dolan can't use facial recognition to keep out people based on a violation of the law, except it's a private event. You have every right to decide who's in your house, who's not in your house. You have every right to decide who uses your facilities and who doesn't. As long as you do not discriminate, it's right there, Coca. The protections are outlined in our Constitution. There are laws that protect people, but everything above that is our right. These fans who did what they did to Mookie Betts, they don't have the right to go to a game. None of us has the right to go to a game. That right can be taken away at any time for any particular reason, and it's our judgment. This wasn't even a hard case, Coca. When you touch a player, when you run on a field, when you put other fans in jeopardy by your actions, it's not even a close call. Am I too harsh because I wanted to punish and I wanted to prosecute anyone who would run on the field during a game that I was in charge of? Or when there were people fighting in the stands that I didn't just want to break up the fight and kick them out, I wanted to charge them with assault, battery, menacing, whatever I could find. I wanted the DA's office to work with me to charge every fan because I don't want to just put a sign in my ballpark. Hey, text 867-5309 for safety. That's not the atmosphere that I want. If you see something, say something. I like that Secretary Johnson did that. But wouldn't it be better if people were actually deterred from bad behavior because there were consequences to the bad behavior? I have always been a believer of deterrence. If you don't think that the word is out about what these fans did in the front row and that will have an impact on the behavior of others in the front row going forward, you're just wrong. The stronger you are in retaliation, in punishment, in recognition of behavior that's wrong, the better chance you have to fix it. Those fans will never be allowed back. Don't you worry. I want to bring up a few wait to sees, but I want to give you my pick of the day first. We are 1-3 to start the season. I thought things were going well when we had OSU -6 over Texas. It's OSU against Notre Dame in the national championship. We won that one. We told you we lost the Chargers. We had the Packers +4.5. What an absolute crappy performance by the Packers. So we went 1-2 this weekend. We are 1-3 early. Nothing personal pick of the day. Isn't it when you're going into a new season, you want nothing more than to start well? I'm annoyed. We got one more playoff game tonight. Did you see with the Rams who are playing in Arizona? We talked about that last week. I said something wrong. I don't mind the corrections. Please give them to me. This one was an assumption that I made that ended up wrong, which interests me. I told you that the Los Angeles Rams are the home team. So the Los Angeles Rams will have the home clubhouse in Glendale where the Phoenix Cardinals play. 4869. I told you that the Los Angeles Rams would have the home clubhouse where the Arizona Cardinals play. Sean McVay, the coach of the Rams, wanted his team to be so comfortable in Glendale because they've been so successful there against the Cardinals that he asked the NFL, and the NFL, of course, granted it to them because they're the home team that lost the home game because of the tragic fires and circumstances in LA. He chose the visiting clubhouse. Think about that for 1 second, Coca. People may not realize the difference between the home clubhouse and the visiting clubhouse is the difference between living in the penthouse and the doghouse. You put all of your money, all of the better finishings, all of the better equipment, all of the better facilities in your home clubhouse. There's a minimum standard when you're building a visiting locker room or a visiting clubhouse. And every team who builds a ballpark builds to that minimum standard. And that's it. There is not one extra thing. The space is small. The finishings are bad. The chairs are less comfortable. There is not one redeeming quality about the visiting clubhouse in any ballpark or any stadium. And the Rams choosing to be in that facility because that's what they're comfortable with, having been in that clubhouse, in that locker room once a year, every year since it opened. I'm sorry. That is absolute eyewash. If I'm the GM or the president of the Rams, I don't want any part of the visiting clubhouse. That said, I think the Rams are the better bet tonight. The Vikings, obviously, Sam Darnold has had one of those seasons that if you're a Jets fan, you just can't possibly comprehend. You're despondent beyond repair to see what Sam Darnold's done. You look at the Vikings and you say that they were playing to have the number 1 seed in the bye. in week 18. They happened to lose, and now they're on the road in Los Angeles and now in Arizona. And yet they're favored by 2.5 over Rams team that has played way better than what people are giving them credit for. With the quarterback, while Goff is getting all of the attention in Detroit, Stafford's no schlepper. The Rams want to do this for LA in a way the Chargers did too. The Chargers could not overcome Justin Herbert and that very, very strange day that you wouldn't assume is going to happen. The Rams will do this for LA. Something could come up. There could be one of those days, just as we talked about early in the show, but we are going to take the Rams plus 2.5 versus the Vikings. All right, we always tell you that we're going to go through our wait to season. We try to do them as they come up. And then we have a document on davidsamsonpodcast.com. All of the movies we reviewed, all of the wait to sees, all of our picks of the day, everything is there for the public to see because we want full accountability with eye scans. We want everyone to be able to know what we do because in the space of sports podcasts, and you can still vote for Nothing Personal as your favorite baseball podcast on sportspodcastgroup.com. I think today's the last day. Accountability is something in the sports media that is not a huge thing that we trade in. I like accountability. I want to bring you back to September 6th of 2023, a year and a half ago. I told you that the ATP and WTA were going to merge by the end of 2024. I had 15 months for this merger to happen, and I assumed the tennis merger was going to happen between men's and women's tennis, and it still hasn't happened. I got that wrong. On September 21st of 2023, I told you that Alan Williams will not have an NFL job. Do you remember Alan Williams, the Bears defensive coordinator who resigned due to inappropriate behavior? Guess what? No more NFL jobs. He never will have. That was a yes. On December 12th of 2023, over a year ago, I told you the Dodgers won't win the 2024 World Series. I told you the Dodgers won't win the 2024 pennant. And I also told you that in the in-season tournament, the winners would get more than $500K in basketball. Well, I took the triple Lundy no. I got every one of those wrong. That was a tough day. 10 days later, I doubled down and I did a double wait to see that the Dodgers won't win the pennant. Nope. All right, 2024, over a year ago, January 4th of 2024, I told you that Aaron Rodgers will not win comeback player of the year. They haven't even announced it, but I'm taking the yes. Do you remember the Irrelevant Bowl? There was a lot of talk about getting the two worst teams and having them play a bowl game because there were so many crazy bowl games. On January 11th, I said they're going to find a way to do an Irrelevant Bowl in 2025. Nope, they didn't. January 30th of 2024, the NBA will tweak its 65-game rule. I can't believe they didn't tweak it. Nope. March 4th, the Big Ten and SEC will not get auto buys in the CFP. I got that one right. I told you Gleyber Torres wouldn't be a Yankee in 2025. I told you that in August when there was that issue with Gleyber Torres. Got that one right. He's a Tiger. August 23rd of 24. Dan Wilson will not be the Mariners' permanent manager. I am shocked at this, but he is. Let's go all the way to November 18th of 24 when I said Netflix NFL viewership will be under 60 million, which was the Jake Paul number. Yep, it was about 30 million. November 20th, I said the Tampa Rays, we did a whole segment on the Rays and their bond issue. I said they're not going to float those bonds till the new year. They floated them at the end of December, so I got that one wrong. On November 26th, I said Brian Daboll will get fired. He wasn't. Just on December 11th, we talked about Corbin Burns. I said he'll get more than $218 million. Corbin Burns got $210. Missed it by $8 million. That's a no. On December 20th, the final show of last year, I said the NFL will have more than 10 million viewers higher than the CFP. That's when the NFL was going against CFP on Saturday, December 22nd. I didn't get it right. And then just on January 10th, just on this past Friday, I told you the Lakers and Clippers will have their Saturday home games postponed, and Friday night it was announced. The Lakers and Clippers will be playing again tonight, it looks like. Meanwhile, the fires are not completely contained. There are still people evacuated. Lives have been lost. The death toll continues to increase. Please go to American Red Cross. Make sure you're donating. Make sure you are having empathy for what's happening, because the amount of time, money, and energy required to rebuild, it's just business. We'll see you back here tomorrow. This is Nothing Personal.